Welcome back, and continuing with what we were talking about last time, we've got our little program here that talks about if the score passing or not, and says congrats, you pass, etc., etc. Well, there's a problem with some of this stuff if you're not careful with how you type. It is a perfectly valid piece of code to put a semicolon right there, because this says if the score is passing, this becomes something euphemistically referred to as a no-op or a no operation. So basically, if this is passing, do nothing and then do all of this. So if we put, for example, a score of 60 and try to run this, you're going to see the answer is, congrats, you passed, you should take the advanced course, thanks for attending. You get all of this because the only line of code that is equivalent or executable is this. It's this end of a sentence, so to speak. So notice that there's not a semicolon for the test. The if, the parentheses have no semicolons whatsoever. This semicolon says, do this. If this is true, then do this. So be very careful with your semicolons. If things aren't working quite right, look for that. Stray semicolons can cause all kinds of really fun problems. Second thing to talk about is this concept of what happens if we don't have integers and we want to do testing. Whoa. If we have floating point numbers and we want to test them, so we have, I don't know, 75.5, and we have two scores, 75.5, and we want to test to see if these two scores are equal to each other. Is score 1 equal to score 2? And we just want to come back and say, these guys are equal to each other. So we're going to strip a little bit of this stuff out. So if they're equal, they're equal. If they're not, they're not. But we're just going to test for equality. So if we run these guys, and you'll see that they're equal to each other. Now let's take one of those scores. And we add a little bitty bit on here. Really small bit. You would think, and somewhat rightfully so, that these two scores are not equivalent to each other. Well, let's try it and find out. Boom, still equals. So we have a problem with this. Doubles, if you're using doubles and you're using them inside the context of really fine and precise numbers, you're going to have trouble with comparison operators. Even less than or equal to or greater than or equal to is going to give you all kinds of problems. So you need to be careful with these guys. There's an inherent problem with double scores or double anythings because of the precision of a number when it is composed as binary digits. It tends to have these repetitive cycles and things that go on. It happens way down. So there are methods of solving this problem, one of which is to take your scores and then adjust them for a precision. In other words, how precise do you want this number to be? And you can basically subtract the two and say, hey, if this thing is anything but 0, then they're not equal. You can do other mathematics to figure out how close and how precise you want this to be. But the lesson and takeaway here is, hey, doubles have problems. So generally try to make sure you're precise with what you're trying to do and understand that once you get to a certain level of precision, these kind of tests won't necessarily work. Anyway, just a brief little foray into be careful with your semicolons and a little discussion of how doubles can give you problems when you're testing stuff.